riding the desolate, violently rattling final midnight train on the subterranean red line deep beneath the sleeping concrete belly of the city was a soul-crushing ritual I had endured for 4 agonizing years of late-shift data entry, a profoundly isolating, sensory-depriving purgatory where the flickering, dying fluorescent tubes hummed with a brain-itching frequency and the eternally sticky, scuffed linoleum floors smelled permanently of dried urine, cheap spilled alcohol, and the sharp metallic tang of oxidized copper dust grinding off the massive steel wheels below. There were only 3 other miserable souls scattered across the long, brightly lit, graffiti-scarred train car tonight, all of us sitting completely motionless, staring blankly at the dark, reflective glass of the windows as the train screamed through the black concrete tunnels, completely ignoring the desperate, exhausted, hollow-eyed reflections of our own pathetic faces staring back at us from the subterranean void. It was exactly 1:42 a.m. when the comforting, predictable, rhythmic clacking of the heavy iron wheels violently shifted, the harsh metallic screech of steel on steel smoothly and unnervingly transitioning into a deep, muffled, wet, rhythmic thumping that vibrated directly up through the soles of my heavy work boots and resonated sickeningly in the marrow of my shin bones, sounding exactly like the massive, slow, labored heartbeat of an impossibly large, hibernating leviathan. I looked up, ripping my earbuds out of my ears in time to realize that the automated, synthetic female voice that normally announced the upcoming stops had completely degraded into a wet, gurgling, static-laced wheeze, and that we were currently screaming past the brightly lit, heavily tiled platform of 42nd Street at over 70 miles an hour without even the slightest hint of the brakes engaging, leaving the waiting passengers on the platform looking like blurred, frozen ghosts in our wake. As the train plunged violently back into the pitch-black tunnel, an overpowering, suffocating stench violently erupted from the overhead air conditioning vents, instantly replacing the smell of stale ozone with the hot, gag-inducing coppery stench of a massive, unventilated abattoir, mixed with the sweet, sickening aroma of boiling, rotting fat. I stood up, my knees trembling violently as the train continued to accelerate downward, the physical pitch of the floor angling steeply and impossibly straight down into the absolute depths of the earth, plunging us far beneath the municipal sewer lines, far beneath the deepest bedrock, hurtling us blindly into an uncharted, lightless abyss where the concrete walls of the tunnel rushing past the windows began to subtly, horrifyingly shift from gray stone into wet, glistening, ribbed, dark red muscle tissue that actively pulsed and dilated around the speeding metal carriage. I stumbled down the aisle, desperately grabbing the overhead metal handrails to steady myself against the violent downward plunge, but the cold, hard stainless steel of the bars had completely softened, feeling warm, yielding, and sickeningly spongy beneath my terrified grip, actively secreting a thick, clear, hot mucus that coated my palms as I realized the metal was rapidly transmuting into a long, continuous, calcified ridge of human vertebrae curving along the ceiling of the train car. Frantically wiping the warm, viscous, biological slime onto my denim jeans, I turned my attention to the other 3 passengers in the violently shaking car, desperate to find an ounce of shared humanity, a terrified ally to help me pry open the emergency doors or pull the heavy red emergency brake cord located at the far end of the rattling carriage. But my desperate pleas died instantly in my dry, burning throat as I witnessed the absolute mind-breaking biological horror unfolding across the aisle. The heavy-set businessman in the gray suit who had been sleeping in the corner seat was no longer simply resting. His expensive wool suit was rapidly dissolving, completely melting into the hard, bright orange plastic of the molded subway seat, the synthetic polymer fundamentally fusing with his raw, exposed, glistening red flesh in a sickening display of accelerated, agonizing assimilation. As I watched in weeping, paralyzed disbelief, his head slowly tilted backward, his jaw unhinging with a deafening, wet, cracking snap that echoed through the train car, opening his mouth impossibly wide to reveal not a tongue or teeth, but a thick, writhing, pulsing cluster of pale, segmented, parasitic worms that were actively boring their way down into his throat, feeding entirely on his dissolving organs, while his eyes rolled back to pure, milky white, weeping thick streams of dark, coagulated black blood down his melting cheeks. I backed away, hyperventilating, the suffocating, hot, meaty air burning my lungs with every desperate breath, only to bump violently into the teenage girl sitting in the center row. But when I spun around to apologize, I saw that her headphones had physically burrowed completely into the sides of her skull, thick, pulsing blue veins wrapping tightly around the white wires that had fused directly into her exposed gray cerebral cortex as her entire skeletal structure began to violently, rhythmically snap and rearrange itself underneath her skin. Her limbs elongated, her spine fracturing into a dozen extra unnecessary joints with a horrifying rapid-fire symphony of popping cartilage, transforming her small, fragile human frame into a massive, multi-limbed, spider-like biological monstrosity that violently adhered itself to the ceiling of the mutating train car, her jaw splitting vertically down the center of her face to let out a deafening, multi-layered, digitized shriek that sounded exactly like the automated train announcement system suffering a demonic, agonizing systems failure. Driven completely mad by the inescapable claustrophobic nightmare, I sprinted blindly toward the heavy, reinforced metal door connecting to the adjacent train car, slamming my bloody, blistered fists against the thick, scratch-proof glass. But the window wasn't transparent anymore. It was completely obscured by a thick, pressing, writhing mass of raw, bloody human intestines and crushed, pulverized faces pressed tightly against the glass from the other side. Hundreds of assimilated commuters from the other cars desperately staring at me with dead, milky eyes as they were slowly crushed and digested by the tightening, contracting muscular walls of the adjacent carriage.
The train car was no longer a machine of steel, glass, and aluminum. It was a living, breathing, rapidly digesting biological capsule screaming through the subterranean circulatory system of a cosmic, subterranean god. The harsh, fluorescent lights overhead flickering and turning a deep, bruised, necrotic purple that cast long, sickening, fleshy shadows across the mutating interior. The floorboards beneath my boots began to violently buckle and heave, the scuffed linoleum tearing open like cheap paper to reveal a massive, undulating, muscular tongue covered in thousands of barbed, razor-sharp papillae that scraped and tore at the rubber soles of my boots, actively trying to drag my thrashing, terrified body down into the churning, boiling acidic stomach acid that was rapidly beginning to flood the recessed tracks of the door frames. The overhead advertising panels, once displaying mundane, cheerful posters for cheap community college degrees and personal injury lawyers, violently peeled away to reveal massive, wet, blinking yellow eyes that darted frantically around the cabin, tracking my every desperate, panicked movement with an ancient, predatory, starving intelligence that fundamentally shattered my sanity into a million jagged, irreparable pieces. I grabbed the heavy red emergency brake cord dangling from the fleshy vertebral ceiling, wrapping my bleeding, slippery hands around the braided steel cable and violently throwing my entire body weight backward, desperately hoping to trigger the pneumatic brakes and halt our terrifying descent into the Earth's biological abyss. But the heavy cord didn't stop the train. It tore completely free from the ceiling with a deafening, wet, tearing sound of ripping muscle, raining a massive, hot, torrential downpour of thick, black, boiling blood directly onto my face and chest. The cord I was clutching wasn't steel wire. It was a massive, thick, violently pulsing, severed human artery, and the severed end dangling from the fleshy ceiling was actively, rhythmically pumping gallons of hot, corrosive, necrotic blood into the sealed train car, rapidly filling the space with a suffocating, blinding, acidic biohazard that instantly began to dissolve the outer layers of my denim jacket and severely blister the exposed skin of my neck and forearms. With the acidic blood rapidly rising past my ankles and the floor actively digesting my boots, I scrambled desperately onto one of the few remaining orange plastic seats that hadn't yet transmuted entirely into exposed bone and muscle, curling my trembling, weeping body into a tight, pathetic ball, listening to the deafening, rhythmic, overlapping screams of the thousands of assimilated passengers echoing through the endless, fleshy, intestinal tunnels rushing past the windows outside.
Suddenly, the violent, downward acceleration abruptly and violently ceased, the massive, biological train car screeching to a halt with a deafening, organic groan that sounded exactly like a massive beast having its ribs violently crushed by an unimaginable pressure, throwing my bruised, bleeding, half-dissolved body violently across the acidic, fleshy cabin and slamming me hard against the pulsating, vein-covered doors. The wet, gurgling intercom system crackled to life one final time, the demonic, multi-layered voice whispering directly into my brain with perfect, sickening clarity. End of the line. All passengers must disembark. The heavy, fleshy doors violently dilated open, sliding back not with the pneumatic hiss of compressed air, but with the wet, tearing sound of muscle separating from bone, revealing a destination that completely and utterly obliterated any lingering hope of survival or divine mercy. We hadn't arrived at a hidden subterranean station. We had arrived directly inside the massive, cavernous, beating primary heart chamber of the Earth itself. The platform was a vast, endless ocean of churning, boiling, thick black blood and towering, impossibly massive, cathedral-sized fleshy valves rhythmically slammed open and shut, generating hurricane-force winds of hot, rotten air that deafened me completely, while millions of other mutated, multi-limbed human train cars were currently docking along the walls of the massive ventricle, actively vomiting their digested, biological cargo into the central bloodstream to feed the sleeping, cosmic horror that formed the foundation of the continent. The mutated, multi-limbed horror that used to be the teenage girl dropped violently from the ceiling of my train car, landing heavily on my chest, her sharp, bony appendages piercing deeply and effortlessly through my ribcage, pinning me helplessly to the acidic floor as the doors themselves began to reach inside, extending long, thick, prehensile tongues of raw muscle that wrapped violently around my shattered ankles. I screamed, a wet, gurgling, pathetic sound that was instantly lost in the deafening, cosmic, rhythmic thumping of the massive heart chamber as I was violently dragged out of the carriage and pulled head-first into the boiling, black, acidic ocean of the beast's circulatory system, my flesh instantly melting, my bones rapidly softening, my mind violently shattering and scattering into a million pieces as my individual consciousness was brutally,
painfully and eternally integrated into the writhing, screaming, hungry hive mind of the subterranean god, forever riding the endless, dark, fleshy tracks of the Red Line.